Thank you, Ms Wishart. And we now move to the open debate, and I call Graham Day to be followed by Graham Simpson. Up to 4 minutes, please.
Thank you, President Officer. A process such as parliamentary consideration of the draft MPF4 asks one fundamental thing of those charged with conducting it. Then, in considering the government's proposals and any contrary viewpoints, we do so on their merits, setting aside our own instinctive positions and recognising that what we are in essence being asked to do is reach conclusions based on opinions or interpretations, sometimes clouded by predictable underlying, perhaps understandable biases. In essence, committees have to sift through claim and counterclaim, often each with their own merits, in order to appoint an appropriate and balanced way forward. So I pay tribute to the Local Government Committee, which I served on for a small part of its consideration of MPF4, for highlighting some of the genuine key issues with the draft and for making some reasonable asks to the Government. And based on the contributions from other relevant conveners today, I would extend that praise to the other committees. In the brief time available to me today, I want to focus on just a few of the issues. Presiding Officer, the fact that at the heart of some of the legitimate criticism of the framework is an ask around greater government direction, certainly as a long-serving member of this Parliament, causes me a wry smile. Because all too often central government is criticised for being too prescriptive, too directive in its approach. We are told there should be greater flexibility afforded local government when it comes to implementation of policies and plans. And yet here, as the report highlights, there is a plea from the people whose job it will be to bring aspects of MPF4 to life at a local level, for greater clarity around prioritisations and the true meanings of concepts, along with the use of clearer and more decisive language. Now, to be fair, around prioritisation, this is perhaps a legitimate ask. The appeal from Christina Granger of the Royal Incorporation of Architects for a hierarchy of matters which should be taken into consideration strikes me as having quite a degree of justification. At the very least, planners need some broad guidance. Then there is the issue of terms such as community wealth building and 20-minute neighbourhoods and what they actually mean, especially in the latter instance in rural settings. The committee heard also of concerns around the definition of out-of-town locations. Clarity of a sort here is needed, not only for planners and developers, but frankly the wider public, some of whom will, let's face it, wonder what on earth community wealth building actually means. Then there is the matter, as we have heard, around the choice and meaning of the language used, the use of the word should rather than must being deployed, and of course the view of the Law Society that using should in relation to policies 5 to 35 of the MPP offers insufficient clarity on whether the policy must be complied with. As a number of colleagues have noted, Presiding Officer, there is also the issue about capacity and the ability of planning departments to deliver on MPF4. It was quite sobering to learn that resources at the disposal of planning departments had suffered a 42% real terms cut since 2009, meaning that they are struggling to meet current duties and obligations, let alone what MPF4 will generate. And in addition to the resourcing issue, we heard about the need for an estimated 700 new planners over the next 10 to 15 years, and we were told a change in culture is needed. COSLA are advocating for full cost recovery in order to properly fund planning departments, including in terms of reskilling existing staff. They probably have a case, Presiding Officer, but personally I want some firm assurance that any sums generated by full cost recovery were effectively ring-fenced for planning departments and not left at a risk of hiving off, because otherwise delivery of MPF4 would without doubt be at risk. Presiding Officer, I will conclude by expressing my support for the ask of the Local Government Committee that it is afforded an opportunity, a proper opportunity, to consider the finalised version of MPF4. Presiding Officer.